Evening.
Oh no, it says Wayne, intro. Hi guys, thanks for joining us for the our latest live YouTube tasting. I'm Wayne Smith, MD Brew York, and to my right...
Lee Guava, head brewer, co-founder.
So thanks for joining us. This is, I think, our 6th or 7th live tasting now.
So this is half a year's worth now.
Wow, yeah, that's passed pretty quickly. And also welcome to our live audience. If you, you guys can't look around at home, but our cameraman was going to pan around. He's just not looking.
Seems to be a little bit distracted right now. John,
so we are joined by a live audience again, a very social distance live audience. We're in a new location in the brewery this time, so we're sat in front of the vessels. So we've got a couple of fermenters bubbling away behind us. With I'm not sure what beers are in there. Lee will probably give us an update on that later on. And a big welcome to all our new subscribers to our Drink Outside the Box beer subscription club. So hopefully you guys have already joined us for a couple of these, and hopefully we might have picked up a couple of new listeners or watchers tonight. Just a quick reminder, anyone who's got, everyone who's watching's got this, but take your can of Up in Smoke out and put it to the one side. Make sure it's not in the fridge. Give it a time to warm up, ready for tasting later on. And probably a good start is to take Haze Thunder, the first beer, crack it open and pour it while we give you a bit of an introduction to what we're going to do.
So while Wayne is pouring that beer, I'll give you a quick rundown on the running order. So we're going to be doing 4 beers once again tonight. The first beer we're going to be doing, of course, is the Haze Thunder, the 4.6% DDH pale that Wayne is pouring to my left. After that, we're going to be moving on to a 6.4% West Coast IPA called Big Eagle, recent SIBA IPA gold
medal winner.
Gold medal winner for
regional
Best IPA in the UK, regional and national.
Yeah.
Then we're going to be moving on to, again, a 6.5% sour. This one is a Brazilian type sour called Eisley Catharina sour, which is flavoured with coconut, guava and lime juice. And then finally we're going to be concluding on the beer that Wayne's just asked you to get out of the fridge, which is Up in Smoke, which has been brewed with our in-house barbecue kitchen, and it is a cherry wood and maple smoked porter. So as we drink each beer, we're going to be talking to you about the concept behind the beer, why we've called it what we've called it, any kind of other interesting facts and tidbits we might have related to that particular beer. As we go along, what's going to make this better is questions. So we have a live audience here. They've already been pre-warned. They're going to be asked to come forward with some questions a little bit later on. And we also want you guys online to chip in with some questions. The way to get your questions in is below your video. You have the ability to type in some comments. You can ask us questions there. We've got people behind the camera who are monitoring that. And then they will pass in this little arm, which is usually ready to show at this point.
The newly repaired tiny arm with his.
So if that's in shot, you see this tiny arm, that'll come in shot at some point, and that will pass us the questions. So try and get as many in as you can. The more questions we have, the more interactive we can make this, the better the session is going to be for all of us. Also, as we go along, we are going to be covering a different subject with each beer. And those things are going to be such as the state of the hospitality industry currently, and Wayne's going to give us a little update on our subscription service later on. And we're also going to give you insight into what the next 4 beers are going to be for the next time we do this session in a month's time, which of course you can get either purchasing it as the 4-pack or by subscribing to our subscription service.
So, cheeky page turner while we talk the next beers.
Ordinarily, we have these cheat sheets, as we call them, hidden off camera, but now we're social distancing. The place where we would put them is too far away from me and Wayne to read. So we've got them here this time.
When he says now we're social distancing, we always have, but now we've got a live audience with us as well. It kind of makes us a bit further away. So first beer up is Haze Thunder. So I hope you guys have all had a little mouthful now you've tasted it. This is, as the name suggests, a hazy pale ale. So originally launched last year for our cask, actually as a cask beer. So for people who don't understand the difference between cask and keg beer, cask is typically served slightly warmer and less carbonated. It's served through an angram or a hand pull, typically in your pub. and keg beer is usually colder and fizzier, served through a keg on the back wall or front wall, or it's the same product that goes into your cans. So a little bit colder, a little bit more carbonated. We brewed this as a cask beer, which was a little bit unusual because not many people at the time did hazy pale ales in cask format. We thought it worked really well. And during lockdown, we decided that it was time to give this beer a run out as a can. And we're really pleased we did because it's become one of our firm favourites. 4.6% DDH pale ale. So DDH stands for double dry hopped. And we talk about this pretty much in every tasting we do because it's something that we brew quite a lot of. Double dry hopped basically means that we take a typical beer, we brew it, we ferment it in one of these tanks behind us, and then we add dry hops to the beer. Once the dry hops have done their work infusing the beer with flavour, we cool the beer down, the hops drop to the bottom and we ditch them out of the beer. Double dry hop beer goes through that process, and then we do the same again. We add more dry hops and we let the hops infuse again, drop the temperature again, and then we ditch the hops out. So really, really good way to get lots of flavour into your beer, but really, really inefficient in terms of the output because you lose beer every time.
Not the most efficient way. It's going to cost you a lot more money to make a beer that way, but we think the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, you get lots of flavour in there. We've got some really interesting hops in this one. So our favourite in the brewery is probably Mosaic. We use it in quite a lot of our beers. Fortunately, we've got a really good hop contract with our hop merchants now, and when we first started, we couldn't get Mosaic for love or money.
Well, we could hardly get anything decent. Any of the sexy hops, Citra, Mosaic, any of those kind of things, we couldn't get year one.
Amarillo.
Which is why one of the reasons our core range today is very different from what it was in year one.
So in addition to Simcoe, we have, Simcoe, giving it away. In addition to Mosaic, we have Simcoe in there, we have Laurel, and we have Columbus. So Columbus is a bit of a mainstay in most of our beers. We use it a lot for our bittering. So when you drink beer, you typically get a bit of bitterness. You get bitterness on the back of your tongue. That's usually from the first edition hops. So they add the bitterness to your beer. And when I say first edition, when we boil the kettle, when we boil the liquid, we add hops right at the start of the process, gives you your bitterness. Towards the end of the process, it gives you more of your flavour and aroma. Columbus is our mainstay for the bitter in hop edition, but it also makes a really good late aroma and flavour in hop. So we use that in this beer. And Laurel is something that you don't see very often. People don't talk about it much, but it's a really nice hop, and in that combination, or in the combination of this beer, works really well.
I would say, when it comes to hops, there are very few hops that can stand out on their own. I suppose Citra might be one, Cascade could be one. Mostly what you're trying to do with hops is you're trying to create the orchestra. You're trying to have a symphony of different flavours that either complement one another or you're trying to emphasise something. So with this type of one, we're trying to emphasise citrus. So we've used lots of different things that contribute a citra flavour. And Laurel on its own wouldn't make for a very nice beer. But when you put it with other citra type hops, it amplifies is it linalool, which is the kind of citrusy hop characteristic.
So, does anyone know where we got the name from? Anyone got any guesses what film that might have came from?
Well, one thing we forgot to mention at the start is if you ever forget what beer we're on, they are displayed here. So there's the artwork. You've got the can in front of you. So what's on the can? So what's the inspiration? Days of Thunder.
Yeah, exactly. Days of Thunder, a film from our childhood where there was a vertically challenged actor.
It was basically Top Gun on wheels, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, can anyone guess why we went with 4.6% for the ABV on this beer? Have we got any Days of Thunder fans out there besides the people behind the camera? So the car that he drove in the film is number 46.
Yeah, so, do you remember the iconic mellow yellow car? So the car number was 46.
So on the side of the car.
I'll be honest with you, we didn't realise that first. We were about to brew, we did brew a 4.5% beer. And they were like, oh, that car number's 46. Let's just call it 4.6. So,
yeah,
to say that was pre-planned.
Yeah, when you brew beer in the UK, you have to pay tax and in the form of beer duty. And beer duty is based on the strength of the beer you produce. And there's quite a generous allowance where if you brewed a beer that was 5%, you could sell that beer as 4.5% or 5.5% and still pay the same duty. It's a tolerance, you'd still be paying duty on what you'd said it was. So we have a little bit of tolerance. So the first time we brewed it, it was 0.1% out of tolerance. We then adjusted the recipe, so now we brew it to 4.6 as a result of the name. So it's
I mean, there are some classic examples of where some much bigger players than us have taken advantage of that allowance. So if you imagine you were brewing a kind of cooking lager that's about 4.1%, you can work out which one that is. But that's going to require a certain amount of raw ingredient to achieve that 4.1%. What if you were to use slightly less raw ingredients and get it to 3.6% and still call it 4.1%?
So the public buy it, think it's 4.1%, think they're getting a good price for their money, but in reality it's you're buying a 3.6% beer.
A certain cooking lager brand did that, they got found out, didn't get prosecuted because it's a moral issue, it was not a legal issue.
Mm-hmm. So
you can probably guess what we think of that.
Yeah, in our opinion, not many people can taste the difference between 0.1 0.2% ABV. A lot of people can tell the difference in the mouthfeel, the taste, the alcohol.
Apart from that review we had on Untappd that time, I think we brewed a beer, I think it might have been about 3.9, and somebody put on tap, tastes more like a 4.1. Like, I'm a professional brewer. I can't tell the difference of 0.2. How on earth are you doing?
It's one of those things. The 0.5%, if you brewed your beer always a 0.5% difference, I think you can probably taste the difference. Yeah. If it's 0.1, 0.2, you probably get away with it and then fix it and do it properly.
It would be thin and watery. That's probably why those cooking lagers get away with it.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to taste like.
Right, so at this point we're going to move on to our first subject. So it's a little bit of a COVID update, hospitality update. So where are we as a business right now? So we're pleased to say that last week we had an inspection here. The COVID inspector, if that's the right name. I don't know
a new thing.
What the proper name would be.
Public protection.
Public protection paid us a visit last week, as they did with many other venues in York, and they said we were definitely one of the safest venues in York. If you've been up to the beer hall next door to where we are, you'll see in there, really secure, one-way system, completely table service, and that was before table service came mandatory. That's just the way we opted to do this. So with the one-way system, never any risk of you coming face on with someone. So if you just check out our feedback, for example, on TripAdvisor, on App4, which is our app provider, which you would order your beers from, you'll see that we are getting glowing feedback based on what we have done next door. So we now feel that we kind of proved the concept. We can run an environment, a bar, in which people are going to feel safe. So our next challenge to ourselves is to now reopen this tap room that we sit within here. Our ambition is to do that before the end of October. So that leaves us about 3 weeks now, I think, to get that ready.
And most of you have probably been watching the news, so we don't know what's going to happen on Monday, but we're still going to work around our plans and hope to reopen this space. We think, especially on a weekend, Fridays and Saturdays, beer hall's been going really well. It's really hard to get in there now on a Saturday. We're usually fully booked a week in advance, which is nice because we've got the reassurance that people want to come and visit us, but also we want everyone to get the Brew York experience. We've got a vacant venue here that's been sat doing nothing since March. We've kept it closed mainly because of the production. We wanted to make sure that the being open in the bar didn't affect the production, and we think we can do that safely now. So subject to what the government do, we hope to have the place reopened fully in the next couple of weeks.
If you were here 2 weeks ago, you wouldn't have been able to sit where you're currently sat, because that's where we stack all the cans. So we've taken advantage of this being closed to just use it as additional storage. As we announced in the last session, we are expanding. We've taken on another site. So the equipment is still going in up there, but for now we are able to at least store things like empty cans up there. So we've moved all that up there so we can at long last reopen this bar here. So that's hopefully some positive news for us. I think the outlook for the rest of the industry isn't looking too positive right now. I think bars have been struggling across the country, and we're continually having these new challenges thrown at us. So to do the table service generally involves increasing the amount of staff that you're going to have on. to socially distance. You're generally doing that at a much lower capacity than you're normally doing. So you've seen your costs go up, you've seen your revenue go down, and then the government chucks in a, how about you all close at 10 p.m.
And yeah, it doesn't seem like much. People think, oh, well, you used to close at 11 anyway. Well, you close at 10 p.m., that now means everyone has to be off the premises at 10. In the past, we close at 11 and people leave by 15:15 or 11:30. So now by closing at 10, everyone's off the premises at 10. Effectively, that's 9:30. That means we can't really take any bookings upstairs on the lead up anytime after 8:30, really, unless people just want to pop in for a quick drink. So it does really restrict us. We've effectively lost 2 hours of trade, and we only really had from midday till 11 upstairs anyway. So it is having a big impact. Add to that the fact that we had this venue we're sat in now, which holds up to 100 people. The beer hall pre-COVID holds up to 200 people. So we had a potential capacity on a weekend for 300 people at any point in time. Break that up into 2-hour sessions, then we've got maybe 6 sessions, maybe 5, call it 5 sessions, 300 people. We could in theory have had up to 1,500 people here on a Saturday, which is great. It was one of the reasons why we opened the bar here. But due to COVID and everything else, the beer hall now theoretical maximum it holds is 100. In reality, that 100 is never going to be booked optimally. You don't, just because we've got a table of 6 doesn't mean you and 5 of your family, not mates, because you can't do that. It doesn't mean 6 people are going to sit in that table. So in reality, the table of 6 is usually run at maybe 66% occupancy. So our theoretical 100 people is more like 66 people. Add that with maybe 3 or 4 groups of people throughout the day, and your maximum in theory you can get is now 450. A really good Saturday for us now is about 300 people visiting, and that is the tables fully booked throughout the day because of the gaps and everything else. And the guys do a great job of providing table service and everything to those customers. But we still have our full staffing on that we would have had for both venues, serving 300 customers in one day. So it's crazy how much more labour intensive this situation is. But hopefully, if you've been for a drink upstairs, you appreciate that it's a nice environment and it is quite enjoyable. And if things weren't changing, which they probably are going to do, we could have maybe kept things going like that until we can get back to a normal.
And we don't want this to be a moan about how we operate our business here. We're coping, our team have been fantastic. I think it's the rest of the industry that we want to really try and shine the light on here. So 10 p.m. to us, yes, it's inconvenient, but what we took between 9:30 and 11 p.m. at night was not a huge proportion of our trade, whereas for other bars, it may well be. And it really isn't that 1.5 hours of lost trade. It's the message that is assumed because of that. It is like the government going out and saying, hospitality is the problem. We don't have the guts to shut them, so what we're going to do is we're just going to make them close earlier. And you've all seen in the news what the results of that are. That is everybody then going out onto the streets in one go at 10 p.m. and mixing in a way that we're supposed to be discouraging right now. So if closing at 10 p.m. is the solution, it'd be nice at least to see the evidence of why that's supposed to make a difference. Because nobody's coming out with that right now. What does that 1.5 hours difference make? Does this virus know what time of day it is? Yeah, I mean, come on. It'd be nice to know. At least tell us why we're doing what we're doing. And as we were discussing pre-filming, we've all seen these charts now about when this escalation in cases came about. It wasn't when the pubs opened. Yeah. Pubs opened several weeks before. Then people went back to school, then people went back to university. And that's the point that it started to turn into the hockey stick and go like that. But even though that's the case, we are now being scapegoated as an industry. So I think I probably need to climb down the soapbox now. And I think this will be a good point to take some questions.
Yeah, we could talk about this for quite a while.
We've got a question in the room. Should we start there? John, can you hand the camera?
Camera?
Oh, sorry. On that same theme, have you got any plans to repurpose the outside areas so you can continue to use those throughout the winter?
So if anybody didn't get that, we've been asked if we have plans to repurpose the area out there. We've attempted to do something over September. In September we had some great weather. We've just installed an awning out there which is covering a couple of tables out there. So I think we will probably try and return that.
Yeah, next stage will be some lighting and heating out there. So we've never been allowed to use the front of the building typically because it's not part of our license, but due to the measures that government have put in place, we're allowed to use that space at least until summer next year, which is good. But now that we've finally got a chance to use it, it's cold again. So yeah, we are going to do more out there, but yeah, we're just going to have to see what happens with the announcements next week, and then decide if we're going to spend some more money getting it ready to use again. But as soon as we open this space again, we do have the outdoor space in the beer garden out near the river. We already have a little bit of heating out there, but it's also sheltered, so hopefully that'll be a nice bit of space to use.
And much longer term, with us now having a new production facility that will come online towards the end of the year, we hope to make more use of that space all year round. But yeah, there's some work to do yet. Nice. That's the first online question.
So it's from It's Good. I'm sure we've had a few questions asked from this person. It seems like it's popular at the moment to produce 7 to 8% dippers. Do you have any in the pipeline? We canned one yesterday, didn't we? Not for the UK market.
Well, no, because that was 9.1.
Oh, right. So yeah, the 2 weeks, 7 to 8%.
I think you've probably seen a lot more of these styles or types of beer come around in the last months, because we saw a particular effect through lockdown where people were drinking more and they were drinking stronger. And as it was put on a very good podcast that I listened to, I think that's because there was less excuses to not drink. So if you don't have to do that commute in the morning, if you don't have to face your colleagues face to face, it's a little easier to go a little bit overboard with the drink. So we would ordinarily brew one dipper or one tipper, triple IPA per year, and just in that lockdown period we brewed three of them because you lot were just buying them.
Yeah, it's a style that's great, but it is quite expensive, not just to make but to buy. So when you go to a pub and you see one on, it's great, but you won't necessarily get a pint. Might make one to the strength, one two because of the price, but you'll easily buy a can of beer to take. I would, yeah, a can of beer to take home with you. So yeah, it works really well in can, and people are quite open to it at the moment. So yeah, we did Optimists. We did that during lockdown, Optimist 2020. We've taken the date stamp off it now because it's not a good thing to remember, is it, 2020? Everyone will be wanting to think of other things now. So we have rebrewed it, and we've got a small amount coming back into our bars in the next month, and then a small amount of cans won't make available. But we brewed it again because we sent samples of it across to one of our export partners, and Sweden loved it, so they're taking Optimist and what the beer formerly known as Shea Guava. Which was a Guava.
Which is now Viva la Guava Lucian.
Yeah, we did a little bit of stepping on people's toes by accident during lockdown with beer names, so we had to rationalise that one. So another question here from Neil Lands. So will we be doing any more collaborations with other breweries? Sweet Temptation Chocolate Caramel Stout with Vocation is delicious.
We're doing any more collaborations with other breweries? So yeah, we're doing a few.
I said that, didn't I?
Yeah, I was just double checking what the question was. So we have just done what was supposed to be a face-to-face one, which ended up being a virtual one with a brewery in Durham called S43. The day before we were due to be there, they announced local lockdowns in Durham, so we couldn't go. So they then brewed the beer, the recipe we've been working on for a little while without us, which is a 7.4% pumpkin spiced latte stout.
Controversial.
That's
when it comes to
mouthful,
pumpkin, isn't it?
But I used to be totally anti-pumpkin beers, but then we have a friend who lives over in Austin, Texas, and he comes over once a year and he has an obsession with pumpkin beers, so he keeps bringing them over and he makes us try them, and he has converted me, I have to say. If used in the right way, pumpkin can make for a very good beer. And then we're doing
this time last week, myself and Tony were across at Kirkstall Brewery in Leeds. We've brewed with them in the past. They came here and we brewed Captain Kirkstall, which is a DDH pale. And then so the beer we brewed last week was a jasmine table beer. So table beer is a very low strength beer that originally, small beer or table beer was the first run-ins of a brew. Oh, sorry, the second run-ins of a brew, and it was what you drank during the day while you were working. And then on the evening, you drank the stronger brew that was beer. Beer that was brewed.
This is beer one.
One with a wink.
On camera.
I'm just. I can't think. What's the name of the beer, Tony? The Kirkstall collab. Oh, it's called The Whole New World.
Oh, what, like Aladdin?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the princess called?
Jasmine. Right, there we go. Okay,
So yeah, a nice
I think
a thinker.
Not one of the buttons of this chair. But anyway. So and then we're also next Friday we have got Danny from McCall's Brewery here, and we're brewing a Fruits of the Forest quadruple that's going to come in at 11%, and also going to have star anise, and we're brewing it with turbinado sugar and molasses for a really kind of complex character to it, and that's going to be called Quadimodo. As we like our daft names, as you may have noticed.
The puns continue.
And then the final upcoming collab we have is we brewed a beer with Unbarred. Again, that was a virtual one during lockdown. We did a pastry sour, which was brewed down in Brighton, and we're going to do a pastry sour up here. The recipe for that we're still working on, so I can't tell you because I don't know. What we got there?
Gaza P, are there any new and exciting hops on the horizon that may be... Oh, that you may be experimenting with. Sorry, it's a bit dark back here. I can't read properly.
So the ones that we've used recently, they always have numbers. They don't have names at this stage. So the company we work with, they do their research through the hop breeding company. So all of theirs are called HBC, and then 3 numbers to characterise the particular hop. So we've used HBC 472. Which is the sister of Sabro, which used to be called HBC 438. And it gives a kind of, almost like a barrel-aged, coconutty, woody kind of character. So it's a very unusual hop. There's not many things that contribute that kind of thing. So we've used that one. Then we've used HBC 692, which just about 2 weeks ago, there's trials that proved that successful. That one's just actually been given a name, but I've forgotten what the name is. And that one's known to be kind of pineapple-y and tropical, and that particular hop, HBC 692, whatever name it is now, is expected to be the next big thing. So Sabro was the last one that came out of that breeding program that's kind of going big guns. The next one is whatever HBC 692 is now called.
Who's got Google?
I've got a question that sort of relates to that. So you mentioned,
Cameraman.
Sabro.
Sorry, 1 second. They'll pass your microphone across.
Sorry.
Liam will pull the camera out of John's hand as well.
You can only get the microphone
miles away from the microphone. Yeah, you mentioned Sabro, which I thought was quite interesting, and you mentioned your favourite podcast we were talking about before. So it sort of links into my question, because I know Steve hates Sabro on the Beer O'Clock Show. But I came across Brew York because of the Beer O'Clock Show and the podcast. So I was kind of wondering how social media is helping with the COVID situation, because I've ordered from loads of breweries that people have recommended to me on social media, and I know you guys interact very much on social media. So do you see selling cans direct from the brewery has gone up? Is this the way forwards for the industry?
Hugely. I remember seeing a stat somewhere during lockdown where it said something like 75% of people who were ordering direct from breweries were doing so for the first time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we've seen a massive uptake in people ordering direct from breweries. I think us doing local deliveries and so forth helped with that. But then you've got things like your wholesalers who you would normally sell through that stopped trading through that period. So one of the questions is just falling on the floor.
I'm just calling
So people who might have been buying through you from someone else then started to come direct because they didn't have another option. HBC 692, somebody's Googled it for me. It's now called Talus.
Talus.
Thank you.
So I'm not sure what time we're on right now, but pretty much time for the next beer, past. And
Should we do one last question?
as if on demand, Yeah, there was a good one next up.
I think
Actually,
you passed this to me because you can't read the name, can you?
no, it wasn't that. I passed you for that question, but
Derek Reethans, apologies if I got that wrong. Will these collaborations be in the subscription boxes?
yeah.
So the pumpkin beer that I referred to will be in the next subscription box and will be one of the 4 beers that we will be doing in this session next time round.
Yeah, and what we've done is we've looked at our up and coming boxes for the next couple of months to try and work out what the how it'll work best with what we're brewing at the time, and we've decided that we'll tell you more later. But January in particular is going to be the collab box set, so we're going to do lots and lots of beers in that box, which we've done with other breweries and other businesses, and it'll be quite an interesting little theme.
Yeah,
we're going to go down.
with the subscription service, you get 9 beers. For that particular box, all 9 beers will have come out of collabs. Not necessarily new collabs. We have things within our core range like Goose Willis and Tom Coco, which both started out as core range beers. So
It's collab beers.
so what did I say?
Core range.
Core range beers, collab beers. Sorry, jeez, this is first beer, isn't it?
Luckily, this is one of our tamer box tastings where everything's around 6 to 7.
Yeah, we're not going above 6.5 today, which is unusual for us.
Well, not on camera anyway. So the next beer that we've just poured without telling you, and hopefully you guys have realised, we got the sticker.
This one here, Big Eagle.
So anyone who's followed us from day one back in 2016 will probably recognise the name. Big Eagle was one of our beers that we launched with. Well, no, we didn't launch with. We brought out as our core range, but it came a couple of months into the brewery, which is originally a 6.5% West Coast IPA. So we've tamed it a little bit now, and Lee will tell you a little bit more about it.
So it's a West Coast IPA that we brew with 4 different hops. So what you should be getting with a West Coast IPA, different to a lot of beers you see these days, is first of all a big level of bitterness. It should be really, really bitter. Secondly, it should be pretty clear in appearance. Shouldn't be like one of these hazy juice bombs. And the kind of character you should be getting is not necessarily the fruity kind of tropical notes. What you should be getting is kind of piney and resinous with a little bit of fruit in there as well. So to achieve that, you use hops that are known to be piney and resinous, and this tends to be the older school hops more so than the newer ones. And we've used in this Columbus, Centennial, Equinox, and Simcoe. So Equinox is more of a modern one, Simcoe modernish.
And you'll notice compared to beer 1, it's a completely different colour. It's more reddy brown than the blondie pale that we had first time round, and that's the malts we've used in it. One of the big inspirations for me and Lee when we started Brew York was West Coast beers, and in particular you go back to Sierra Nevada and Sierra Nevada Torpedo, so amazing beers at the time. That's what we drank a lot of. So this is kind of a nod back to those style beers.
Yeah, so we first brewed this, as Wayne said, back in 2016, not long after we launched it became part of our college, but at that point we only served cask beer. And trying to sell somebody 6.5% in cask wasn't the easiest of sales. So our sales were not astronomical in those times, so consequently we had to bench this particular beer and then move on to having something else in the core range. Subsequent to that, the market then kind of swung very much towards what is known as the New England or the East Coast IPA. So we went away from these clear beers, we went away from this big level of bitterness to being these really soft, really easy to drink things that are essentially like drinking fruit juice, like orange juice. Just really juicy, really easy, really accessible. And I think the reason we've swung that way to them is because they're really good kind of entry-level drinks. They're gateway beers. They're not too challenging to the palate, but for me, they're also not too challenging to the palate. The reason I like something like this is because it does have that whack of bitterness. So when I've drunk it, I know I've drunk it. And it's that little bitterness at the back, that's what makes me want more. Whereas with the kind of juicy things, yeah, I'll have one or two, and I'll be like, and they all kind of start, for me, to blend into one another. Whereas something like this, you drink it, you know you've had it, you want more. But I mean, that could just be my personal preference.
So one of the good things was because we were brewing for our birthday, so our 4th birthday, we decided to bring back a couple of favourites, a couple of originals, and Big Eagle was one of the ones we wanted to brew for that. And without having that shackle around your feet to say that this needed to be a core beer, that we need to sell massive volumes of it, said to Lee, let's brew Big Eagle again. So he went away and he's like, right, got Big Eagle ready. And we're like, oh, cool. And he's like, it's 7.2%. We're like, Big Eagle was 6.5%. What are you doing? And he's like, oh, well, so IPA range covers that. So Big Eagle 2020, which we brought out eventually, we couldn't bring out for our birthday. We brought out during lockdown. Was by far my favourite beer we brought out during the stage. I'd literally take cans and cans of it home and drink it in my shed, but, which is it sounds really weird, that doesn't it? Yeah, just used to lock myself in the shed and drink cans of Big Eagle.
His back garden is a shed. He's not hiding his drinking habits from his partner.
Yeah, so my homebrew origins were in my shed. So I used to have a little homebrew setup in there, and then I used to serve the beers through a little bar in there. So it's been pretty much shut for 3 years, and then we managed to. I did use it originally when we first opened Brew York, but then it kind of got forgotten about. Opened again during coronavirus, and it's been quite nice to go back to that and to drink this beer, which is something that I used to brew on a homebrew scale. Not quite what it is now, but it was the origin of this, and it reminds me of drinking West Coast IPA in Lee's shed. So he did something similar. He saw I had a shed where I used to brew beer and serve beer, so he bought a chalet and put it in his garden, and had to go for one-upsmanship and put one in his garden. And when we started Brew York, we did a couple of different things, and one of the things we did was got a load of our friends into the chalet shed, and we did lots of different lots of different hop combination single hop IPAs, and then we did a blended mix and match, and we got the guys to vote for what their favourite combinations were, and then we used that to brew a beer, which ultimately became Big Eagle. So it was kind of going back to your roots. And then we normally get to go to lots of beer festivals and enter competitions and stuff as well during the year, but because of coronavirus we couldn't do that. So SIBA, Society of Independent Brewers, A doesn't stand for anything anymore, SIBA did a competition this year. It was a digital beer competition. So Lee mentioned earlier we won an award for this beer through it, but they announced the beer categories, and we looked at it, and it was like IPA, something to 6.4% was the range. The maximum strength for an IPA was 6.4%. And we're like, that's stupid, that's not an IPA. But at the same time, we were like, well, actually, Big Eagle used to be 6.5%. I reckon we could tone it down a little bit, get it back to 6.4%, and it could easily become part of our mainstay again.
Turns out it was worthwhile because it won Best IPA in the UK.
Yeah, so it was
beating into third Jaipur, which is, I suppose, one of the beers we used to drink together that really kind of like cemented our love of craft beer, of American hops, of West Coast style beers. That's one of those pinch yourself moments when one of your beers is finishing above something like Jaipur.
Yeah, no, it's pretty awesome. It is a really interesting beer because I don't know about the crowd with us tonight in terms of your preference between East Coast light and easy drinking versus West Coast piney and bitter. But yeah, it is a bit of a divider now because you find that most brewers love West Coast because it's what got them into brewing in the first place, whereas most of the public love East Coast because it's just easy drinking.
It's kind of like you have to brew the hazy things because they're the things that sell in volume. But what I want to drink is that. To conclude on this a little bit, something that I haven't even told Wayne about yet is I am working on a recipe for a dipper version of this, which goes under the working title of Bigger Eagle. I don't know if that's ultimately what it will be called.
Yeah,
but I think that could be an interesting bit.
Original double IPAs for us were West Coast, so it's when we used to drink the Torpedo and those type of beers at the time. It was like it was super intense. They were really, really good. But Yeah, it's kind of, you don't see them on the market anymore.
Double IPAs of this kind of style, they're a real assault on the senses. Because if you think that's bitter, wait until you have something that's dipper strength with
It's
this
probably
kind of hop.
it's probably also worth mentioning Super Eagle. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
So Super Eagle, it looked like the can was a proper last minute. No, sorry, the pump clip was a last minute mock up. It was this wearing a Superman t-shirt, pretty much. Don't mention that to Warner Brothers. But
We
yeah.
had a bit of a cock up. So sometimes we brew a single batch of beer and it would fill one of these little things here. Sometimes we brew a double and it'd have to go in one of those bigger ones over there. And we'd brewed a double of Big Eagle. And I produce the sheets and I hand them to the brewers and they go off and they brew the beer. And then next time this beer came around, we were brewing a single. But I forgot to change the hop additions from the double down to the single. So the amount of hops that went into the beer were for a double of the beer, not the single that was brewed. So the cost went through the roof, and we ended up with something that then became called Super Eagle.
It was really good actually. It was kind of a first double dry hop beer, but it wasn't
Not intentional.
officially, yeah. But yeah, no, that was a cool beer. So maybe Bigger Eagle will be Super Big Eagle or something, and it'll have a bit of all of that wrapped up to it. So this is a really good prompt for us because a couple of beers that we looked at for our birthday, we were nods to our original to say our heritage, our 4-year heritage. We're not that old, but it feels like a long time. And how our beers, styles, and what people buy off us have evolved in that time. So it kind of made us look at the range and what would we like to brew again, what we'd like to bring back. And for me in particular, because we did a couple of really cool beers this year that probably don't get the praise of the East Coast IPAs, but Black Eagle, which we did for Black IPA, was again one of those styles that I used to drink so much of before we had Brew York, and typically West Coast IPA style as well.
So we thought it'd be interesting to throw it out to you guys in the room, you guys online. So when you're asking your questions, also tell us which beers do you not see enough of? Which beers would you like to see more of? So for Wayne, it's the Black IPA.
Yeah, I've got a few others in there. So Lee mentioned it earlier. So Big Eagle, we used to do on cask, and we started doing it on cask again. For me, you don't see enough high strength cask beer. So and in particular hoppy cask beer. So 6.5% plus cask beer is usually really good. The downside to that is cask beer typically has once you've tapped and vented it, a shelf life of probably something that strong, maybe 5 to 6 days. So you need to sell it quickly. And not many people are willing to take that risk, and especially at the moment with coronavirus. No. We have pins which are a little tiny, they're half the size of a firkin. A firkin's 72 pints that the landlord can buy. Pins are 36 pints. So every now and then we'll take one of our strong beers and we'll draw off a couple of pins and we'll use it in the tap room. That's the type of beers that are really good if you ever see them. You don't get to see them very often, but stronger, more interesting styles. But yeah, I think that for me is something that I'd like to see more of.
It's a shame Denzel's not brewing anymore. There's a brewery in our local area that was called Great Heck, and that used to be a bit of his speciality. Stupidly hot, stupidly strong beers, actually at a really good price point as well. So, but unfortunately, Denzel Great Heck, obviously he's not with us. I make it sound like he's died. But no, Denzel's doing whatever he's doing, but the brewery's no longer with us. Unfortunately, but they did do some epic beers when they were around.
Yeah, and then the other things, it's the time of year for me for stouts and porters. Dark beer on cask, you can't beat it. It's just for the body and the taste, the temperature and everything like that. I think it works really, really well. So I'm looking forward to seeing a bit more of that coming soon. And then the bit that Lee hates, but I massively recognise English bitters. We used to brew a beer called Maraciotta, and it is in tank. It's been racked actually, so Maraciotta's coming back in our bars.
It's been brewed again next week. It's going into can.
So Lee absolutely hates this, but English bitter in a can. But
no, I don't hate the beer. I just don't think the style English bitter, modern bitter, whatever you want to call it, is very representative of a brewery that set out to make American beers.
Yeah.
But it's a good beer in its own right. I just don't think it is what we set about to do.
Yeah, and I think 100% agree. It's not something we set out to do, but we try to evolve and look at what our customers want. And don't get me wrong, we're not going to be selling cask after cask of this into the open trade, but we have a few bars of our own now, and people come in there, and a proportion of our customer base want to drink an English bitter, and it seems a bit strange for us to buy it from someone else when we know that we can make a really good one that both our dads absolutely love. And my dad was over the moon today because he apparently was taking a 5 litre bagging box of Maris out of home with him.
He has, and he's racked about another 3. I presume that's the next 3 weeks lined up ready.
So yeah, it's and that's quite nice as well to cater for all of our customers.
Yeah, I've had to kind of succumb. So Wayne makes a very good case. John, our director of bar operations, says he always wants it for his bars. And then on top of that, we're being nagged by the old men. So your dad Russ, my dad Dave, continually on at us. When are you going to brew that again? When are you going to brew that again? When are you going to brew?
So my uncle went and collected our canning line for us from London at the start of March, which has been a godsend for us having this canning line. And his only condition was that he wanted us to brew Maris again for him. So it's taken us a while, but we brewed it for you. So
there you go, Jeremy. You got it at last.
So go on then. You're probably a bit more modern in the styles that you want to see.
Well, no, the things that I miss are when you're trying to make a beer, you're generally trying to do something malty, or you're trying to do something hoppy. Whereas me, where you can really get something good is to balance the two. And trying to balance the two is really goddamn hard. And the styles that do it are things like your red IPA, your India stouts, your US brown ales, those kind of things. And they're the things that I love. Because you are getting that big malt background, you get that on the finish, but up front you're getting the big, intense kind of hoppy type character. And there's just not enough of these things around anymore. And we'd like to make more of them, but when we do attempt to make these things, we just don't sell a lot of them. Because everybody wants the hazy fruit juice.
Yeah, we did our first year when we set the brewery up. We got invited to do Collab Fest with Brewdog, and the guys basically said, "Well, what beer do you want to brew?" And we were like, "Holy Cowbell!" So at the time, Beavertown were doing some amazing beers, and they did Holy Cowbell, which was an India brown. What did they call it? American brown. I can't remember what name they called it, but
US brown.
It was a super heavily hopped brown ale, and it was
Smog Rocket,
brilliant, wasn't it?
8 Ball, the rye one.
And we brewed a beer called Black Dog of Horse Bay. That's him coming up with a weird name for a change. And we launched it, and it was a bit. It got mixed reviews, but it got quite strong scores on Untapped. But one of the best bits of feedback we had at the time was, "This is like Holy Cowbell but better." It was like, nice, we'll take that. That's exactly what we were going for.
I'm not sure I agree, but thanks anyway. Right, so in the room then, what styles are you missing? What do we not see enough of?
Bipper, without doubt.
Bipper, black IPA?
Yeah, definitely.
Anyone else?
Red IPA.
Red IPAs? Yeah. Red IPAs? Yeah.
So yeah, we brought out Red Panda a few weeks back, well, months back now actually, which is kind of this style. So it's a very West Coast, but a lot more crystal malt in there, so you're getting the redness. It was really cool. It was a bit like, I don't know why, I really liked it, but I couldn't drink too many of them. Whereas Big Eagle, I can have can after can.
I mean, that might have been the Sabro.
Yeah,
so Sabro, the hop
yeah.
that we mentioned earlier, has a unique character. It's just like a Marmite hop. You either love it and you really love it, or you absolutely hate it. And that is one of the hops that we used in there. So if you like Sabro, fine, you like that beer. You don't like Sabro, not the beer for you.
So I've got an idea. So I'm just going to put my mask on 1 second, and what we're going to do
Just go to the loo.
Yeah, and go to Lou, and Tom, who works in our sales team, is going to take my place and answer some
That's why it's got the branding.
So everybody, this is Tom,
Hi,
who
everyone.
looks after York and local sales and the sales office.
Yes, correct.
So, right, you read them out, and then I'll just sit here and watch you try and answer them.
I can't read out writing.
I was buying loads of bags in boxes. Better would be delivered of beer in growlers or cask. What would be better delivered in growlers or cask?
I'm not
So
getting
it's
the
saying that you'd rather have them delivered in growlers or casks, because you do that and then they return the empties.
Right, well, casks are 72 pints, so if you've got an appetite for that, I take my hat off to you, sir. Yeah, I'll be well impressed if you're consuming that on your own. Growlers, probably not the best thing for cask beer. Cask beer is very low carbonated. The CO2 immediately wants to escape from the beer, so you would end up with it being quite flat. That's why when you get the bag-in-box things, they leave here in a box and they arrive looking like a football, because that's all the CO2 having left the beer, because without the pressurization or something like steel that can retain that level of pressure, you are going to see the CO2 dissipate in the beer. So I don't know if we answered your question there at all, but we're moving on to the next one.
How about a thick...
So you need to say who's asked
Oh,
the
sorry.
question.
Sorry, apologies. New to this. Kerry Riley.
Hi Kerry, so Kerry was part of the audience last time, so nice to see you again, Kerry.
How
Well,
about...
not see you, but hear from you.
How about a thick, mild ABV Christmas stout with a good kicked
I think I might say
spice?
mid
Mid ABV. Christmas stout, Christmassy stout with a good kicked spice.
Right. Well, this year we are doing 3 Christmas beers. They are already predetermined because we've already brewed them all. So we're doing Fairy Tale of Brew York, which is the one we do. Oh, it is a peanut. Oh my god, I forgot. What did we put in this year? Peanut, cinnamon.
Tell them what's in the beer.
Anyone remember?
Which one? Nightmares?
No, right, I'll come back to that one. Then we're doing a 9.8% imperial version of the beer that we did 2 years ago, which is coffee and walnuts, imperial milk stout. So that comes in at 9.8%. It's the trilogy of beers, so we're calling it Fairy Tales, Nightmares and Dreams. So Nightmares is the 9.8% one. And then at 6.5% we're doing Dreams of New York, which is a cranberry and blueberry pastry sour. And then, have we remembered what?
The standard fairy tale. It has walnut in it.
Peanut, pecan, maple, cinnamon, vanilla. There we go.
Okay, so it doesn't have walnut in it.
No, but what? Say it. Yeah, walnut and coffee is the 9.8% one. So yeah, so in short, not this year, Kerry, because we've already done 3 different Christmas beers, and we're probably already pushing it, trying to sell 3 without bringing another one in.
Yeah, it's going to be Christmassy very soon. So I've got one from, I can't read it.
Drivers High 86.
Thornbridge Brew York collab, when?
Well, they just need to ask.
Yeah, we were talking about...
And we'll be there.
For our birthday, our 4th birthday, we were talking to them about doing something, and then obviously COVID hit, so we don't know. Watch this space. We know the Thornbridge guys really well. We get on really well with them, so
And
fingers
if
crossed.
you've watched us do this before, you'll know every time I'm asked which brewery I love the most and respect the most, I pretty much always say Thornbridge. So, yeah, if that opportunity arose, we would jump on it, don't you worry.
So from Matt Sullivan, more brews like Kiwi would be good. Kiwi. There's a...
Well, that's going back to the US brown style. That one we call a New Zealand brown, which technically isn't a style. It's a US brown, but we put New Zealand hops into it.
And this was this was us being maybe a tad naive when we launched, and we decided that one of our core beers would be a New Zealand brown ale. And yeah, we loved it, and other breweries who came to visit us, and lots of people really liked it. But unfortunately, the volumes weren't there. People, the landlords were nervous; they wouldn't buy it. I think if we did it now, they probably would. But yeah, it was at the time. It was a bit of a strange beer to have in your core range. But yeah, we absolutely loved it.
It's a beer we only brew once a year now. Typically autumn time of year. I think we did a little early this year.
Yeah.
I'd love to have it available all year round. I like to brew it just so I can drink it.
This is a really good one.
Unfortunately, yeah, not enough other people are drinking that one.
So it's from It's Good, and a recommendation is Imperial Simon Le Mans. I agree with that. I
Simon
love
Le
Simon
Mans
Le
is
Mans.
a 3.8%.
Yeah, 3.7, 3.8.
3.7 sherbet lemon sour that we make. So if we're going Imperial, what are we going with that? Like 7%?
Yeah,
7%?
but
Probably works.
it's so refreshing. It's something that during summer in particular, I'd always go for a can of that when I had a chance. It's a really cool beer. So maybe next summer we'll bring out the Imperial version. When we're at a beer festival in the sunshine, it'd be good.
I think that would spell trouble.
Yeah.
I think you get yourself in a mess with that one. But yeah, let's do it.
So Chris Roberts, somebody needs to brew an interesting mild.
We brewed one in our history. I think
Sigrid Saga.
Sigrid Saga. We're regularly involved with the Viking Festival in York. We work with the Jorvik Centre, and we tend to. We work with Valhalla, a local Viking-inspired bar, and we tend to do a dedicated festival beer. And the first year we tried to do one that's very traditional Viking Sarti finish thing, where it's kind of infused over like bark of juniper and stuff. It was a terrible beer. It really was. So then we decided we won't try and do the traditional thing, but we'll do something that kind of suits this Vikings.
Yeah.
So it's always going to be kind of dark and sometimes smoky. So then we went on to doing this mild.
Sabro hopped. It was at a time. It was experimental at the time.
And it was 472, the one we mentioned earlier as well.
It was cool actually. You got from the Sabro hops, you got like a barrel aged taste, and it was a low ABV mild. It was quite. I really liked it, and I was like, this people are gonna love this. Vikings in particular.
Well, I liked it. I mean, I love drinking milds, but milds coming out of a brewery like us, having set ourselves up the way we have, is going to be a little weird. In fact, it was a bit weird. I love. There's a local brewery to us, Half Moon, and they do Dark Masquerade. Comes in at 3.7, I think, which is a dark mild. It's beautiful, super sessional. I absolutely enjoy that, but I don't think most people are going to expect or accept that from us.
So Sigrid Saga wasn't the hit we'd hoped, but we appreciate it.
Right, I'm out of beer. We need to go to the next one.
You can tell we're on Big Eagle. We're literally flying it now.
So we have a question in the room.
We've got a couple of questions.
Next.
So
Two, sorry.
I'm just wondering, does it get trickier then as you kind of get more successful to balance what your customer might want with what you actually want to brew? Does it get...
Yes, because you can see the size of the place that we're in. So we have a limited capacity. We can't add any more vessels. So the more people want us to rebrew one particular thing, that means, well, if we're rebrewing things, then that's going to impact on us doing new things, which is why we're so excited about the new site. Because we can do all the things that you want to see again, but we can start to do more new things. So you might have seen that our output of new things has tapered off a little bit recently, and that's because we're just having to keep up with doing the stuff that everybody expects.
yeah,
Whereas with the new site, we'll be able to do a lot more of that.
and in particular in our own bars. So when we move main production to our new site, we've got the capacity here that we're brewing the beers here with now. So we're going to do lots of interesting stuff with that, and we're going to tell people more about that when we've got a bit more firmer plans. But the one thing we can do is we can knock out a 10-barrel batch of kiwi or Maris the Otter, and we can just sell. Well, we could probably sell it a little bit further, but each batch of beer, if it's cask, is maybe 36 firkins. That'll go between all our bars and last maybe 2 to 3 weeks. So it means that we can start doing some of that stuff where you can only get it in our bars, but we can go back to looking at things like maybe a batch of Sigrid Saga every now and then.
It'd be like being back to our naive by beginning to it. It doesn't matter if people are buying it, we're making it because we're drinking it.
Yeah, exactly. We'll drink it again. So another question from It's Good. I was wondering if you had much success getting your beers on in the university campus, either by online sales or selling to the bars. That's an interesting point actually, because before COVID hit, we had a permanent line in all of the university bars, didn't we? So,
Unions,
student union.
Call them.
And then obviously now students are back, they can't go to the student union to drink. So We hopefully will be picking that back up again, and you'll have at least one of our beers on in most of the student unions. But it's a great way for new students coming in to taste that beer, hopefully like it, and then want to come and visit us and get some brand loyalty to us, hopefully.
There's Uncle Tony with our next beer.
So yeah, another half an hour's passed, so it's time for the next beer.
Thank you.
So hopefully everyone's got a can of Mos Eisley Catharina in front of you. So this is a Catharina sour, which is a Brazilian sour. It was originated in about 2004, did you say? And
First
the name came
out 2004, but yeah, didn't actually get called that until 2006.
So this is something that we brewed for the first time last year. We debuted it actually at Magic Rock Sesh Fest. So the batch we brewed in 2019 was passion fruit and, do you remember?
Probably mango.
Mango and passion fruit?
We put mango in everything.
It was nice. It wasn't amazing. Unfortunately, passion fruit can be a bit temperamental when you brew with it, and it tastes great, but it smells like ass. So unfortunately,
Did you actually just say that?
100%. It's it can be, it's one of those fruits that tastes really really good, but unfortunately it gives off some it might be sulfur.
Permanent record of that now.
Yeah, and it doesn't smell amazing. Thankfully, Mos Eisley last year didn't smell bad, but didn't smell amazing either. When you put that much fruit into a beer, you want it to smell really good.
It's weird because of all the fruits out there, the one that is naturally sour that you would think would suit the sour is passion fruit. But yeah, on the occasions we've tried to put it in a sour, it's not ended up in good results.
Yeah, it's not been great. So yeah, this is a sour, but it's not too intensely soured. And we've gone for a little bit of a twist this year. So for Mos Eisley this year, we decided to go with guava and a bit of lime, and it's actually got coconut in it. So hopefully you can probably taste the coconut. So one of the things we do a lot of is toast coconut and use it in our beer. So it was basically a bit of a combo that we wanted to put together, and it's been a little bit hit and miss, hasn't it? People have either loved it or not been too keen on it, this one.
Yeah, I suppose it's the second time we're going to use that word marmite again. People are absolutely loving this one, or they're not enjoying it at all. And I think it's the coconut. For me, I'm almost on the fence. I kind of feel like one sip I really enjoy it, next sip I'm like, It's almost throwing off a kind of savoury like characteristic, which is a bit weird. But yeah, I think overall I did quite like it. I like the fact that it pushes boundaries. That's what we like to do.
Yeah, I mean sometimes you find combos that work really well. Sometimes you find things that you might want to tweak. Mos Eisley is a series of beers for us. So it's a bit of a weird way to look at it, but we absolutely love the branding. The guys at United by Design, who we always give a little nod to in these, did a stellar job for us. We love the subtle but not getting litigation nod to a film about wars in the galaxies and stars.
No, a long time ago.
And yeah, we think it looks really cool, and we like that, and we decided that one of the things that we really like with sour beers, and especially heavily fruited sours, is trying different fruit combos out. So we want to give this has effectively become our playground for that. So each time we bring out this beer, it will have a different fruit combination, and we'll try different combos, different levels of pH and saltiness and all the rest of it, and try and come up with something that we think really works, is really refreshing. I quite like the guava. I love guava in beer, and especially sour beer. The coconut I do like, but I'm not quite sure. Sometimes it confuses me a little bit when I drink it. But
I think the beer's evolved a little bit since the last time I drank it. I like it more now than I liked it before. I think it is a slightly more balanced beer than it was now. I think the coconut's not quite the assault it was before. But I do love guava in sours. If you've eaten guava, you'll know that it's not got a massive flavour. But for whatever reason, when you put it in the sour and it gets to this level of pH, it just explodes. The character from it really comes out. I do not know the science of why that is. It's just for whatever reason, at this pH, guava is a hell of a flavour.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like you said, it's a bit of a certain beers in particular. For me, Goose Willis, where my first mouthful, I always feel. I remember it tasted better than that, and then I have my second mouthful. I'm like, oh god, yeah. And then before you know it, the pint's gone.
Well, maybe that's a sour thing in general.
Yeah. Maybe. But with that one, I think gooseberries are quite a aggressive flavour profile initially. And your mouth, like you say, the salt in your mouth, and then it settles and your mouth gets used to it, and then the more you get used to it, the better it tastes. And I think that's kind of something similar with this beer. It's, there's lots and lots going on, so it's quite complicated. But the more you have of it, the more you pick out the individual flavours. And it's like rewatching a film. You watch it a couple of times and you see all the different bits that go on with it. But
well, like Tenet. Anyone seen Tenet yet? The Christopher Nolan film. I think I'm going to have to watch that about 10 times before I get my head around that one. But I'd explain further, but it's one of those you have to be there moments.
how many Marmites have we got? How many loves and how many hates have we got in the room? Love, yeah? You're like,
No, nothing.
I was thinking the Big Eagle.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's
Anyone else really hate it? Anyone brave enough to say they hate it?
Do you know what? Without the coconut, that would be a stunning beer.
Well then, you need to drink what is now known as Viva la Guavolution, which is sour, guava, vanilla.
and if
I've
you
actually got a question about this. You mentioned it earlier about developing recipes and getting balance. And without sounding sycophant, what I've liked about your beers so far is the balance is really good. The balance of the hops, of the malt, and of the sourness. How do you do that? Are you going back to your
We're just really
fruity?
No, I don't think I can give you a very scientific answer for that. I think it's so for anybody who didn't pick that up on audio, we've been asked. Our beers seem very balanced. Is there a particular thing we do to make them seem balanced? So no, I don't think I necessarily have a scientific answer for you for that one. I think it's about having respect for your ingredients, and I think a lot of beers you see these days, it's hops. But there is more to beer than hops.
Yeah.
So it is about respecting the other ingredients that form part of the beer. So it's not about just taking a very neutral flavoured malt, kind of forgetting it's even there, and just ramming as many hops as you can into it. I think for me, you do need to have the contrast, the backbone of the malt. So I think if you understand that and you respect that and you structure your beers that way, then hopefully you should end up with something that is balanced. Okay.
So the other thing we wanted to talk a little bit about is the next theme, I guess, that's outside of beer, is our subscription pack. So a glamorous assistant's going to bring you a box across. We launched our subscription pack last month. We've been talking about it a lot, so probably our last 3 or 4 live tastings we've talked about it, but we finally got it off the ground last month.
We promised for so long that this was coming, and now it is actually here.
Yeah, we were overwhelmed with the response, so thanks a lot everyone who subscribed. It's been pretty crazy.
Here's glamorous Tony.
Come on, Tony, now you're on camera, you might as well show it. So do the...
Is it in there as well?
Yeah.
Come on.
So this is a monthly pack. It's £37 a month. You get your 9 different beers, 4 of which we do on the tasting. 5 are kind of a bit of a see what we've got coming this month. Usually pretty exciting stuff. And then we do a full colour booklet to explain the beers, but also to give you a little bit of insight into Brew York. So some of our favourite beers at the moment are recipes we recommend with the beers, just things like that we kind of think you guys might want to know. And yeah, each month we're going to try and do a different theme. So the up and coming box. So this was the launch. Hopefully most of you guys who are joining us on YouTube have a box yourself, so you know the beers that we have in there. The next month is really exciting because we're going to launch a new range of beer called State of Mind. So
You've got to say it properly. Brew York State of Mind. See what we did there? Yeah.
So we'll tell you a little bit more about the well. Are we going into that on this one? The actual beer and stuff, or is that?
It's going to be premium, generally barrel-aged beers. The first of which is going to be
barrel-aged cherry ton cocoa. So 12-month barrel-aged cherry ton cocoa, barrel-aged in Burgundy barrels.
Barrel-aged
on these tables out in front of us. Yeah.
So until about a week ago, these were filled with cherry ton cocoa. These are Burgundy barrels.
This is really cool. These beers, they're £9 to £9.50 a can, and they're part of the £37 can box. It's a bit of a
Can you
great
hear his
deal.
heart going?
The accountant in me just like, but it's pretty cool. And we did a little taste of we've tasted it before, but we did the official tasting of the beer a couple of days ago. And I don't drink much wine, but when I do, it's usually red wine, and it's usually with a nice steak, and it's just good, isn't it?
It's a beautiful beer.
Really smooth.
If you like dark chocolate, which I do, if you like drinking port, which I definitely do, it's like doing both of those at once.
And then you get the chocolatey flavours coming through as well. So it's like chocolate and port, which is a great combination. So the cherries died down a little bit, but you'd expect that with the fact it's been in a barrel for 12 months.
But I mean, it's sat in the barrel for over a year. Not everything's going to remain.
And coconut usually does. So when we barrel aged ton cocoa before, the coconut dulls quite a bit, but it gives the other flavours a chance to come through. So we're pretty excited about this one. And it's the launch of our State of Mind range. So the State of Minds won't necessarily always be in your subscription box, but we're going to try next year. We're going to try and do one beer a month in this range, which will be a different barrel aged beer. We've been sat on quite a lot of beers for a while that we've been waiting to launch, and
a big part of our ambition for the site that we're in now, given we're moving the bulk of the production elsewhere, is to do more of that kind of thing here. But obviously, if you're aging things for 12 to 18 months, it takes a little while to achieve that. So you're going to have to bear with us. It will eventually be once a month, like Wayne says, but it isn't going to be that now.
So next month's box is going to be pretty cool. But the month after was the one that, as an accountant, that made me like, because Lee gets a bit excited sometimes. He's like, all right, we've got all these coming out, and I'm like, well, you've got 9 beers in that box, and we've got to actually make some money from it. And he's chose 6 beers to do that the Christmas tasting with.
Well, we figured with it being Christmas, we've got to go bigger. So this session in December will be 6 beers, and a lot of them are quite strong, so it should be interesting.
So it'd be pretty cool.
We apologise 2 months in advance for what happens.
So hopefully anyone who's subscribed to the State of Mind, to the Drink Outside the Box series, hopefully you've enjoyed the first box. They're only going to get better. We've got some really cool things lined up for the up and coming boxes.
Our director Alison behind the camera tells us that we're talking too much and not answering your questions. So we're going to do some questions now. So can we start with the one in the room that we missed before?
There's
those and thank you. My God.
We've got a backlog.
We've got a tree's worth to get through. Right, so,
First question in the room.
I'm from Yorkshire, obviously. Do you ever see a time where you could collaborate with Sam Smith?
Well, thanks for saving us some time. Next.
The newer generation of Sam Smith, perhaps?
I don't think Humphrey would let us, would he?
Humphrey won't.
No. The Sam Smith's was it organic chocolate stout, and what's the other one? They do some really good beers.
Yeah, the true beers.
I like the stout. I'm not such a fan of the OBB, is it they call it, the Old Brewery Bitter? No.
But there's obviously they've been around a long time. They do lots of things well. Usually it's somebody who in the ownership structure who doesn't want things like this to happen. I don't think Sam Smiths have ever collaborated.
We're moving on. We were trying to save some time. Which of the beers you've brewed are your personal favourites? And that's from Mark Curran at york.ac.uk. It's probably in lockdown right now. Yes.
Which of our beers?
Which of the beers that you've brewed are your personal favourites?
Imperial Tom Coco.
Goose Willis. There we go. Nice.
So yeah, we could go into more detail, but Alison will kill us if we do. So we'll move on.
Owen Quigley.
What's the minimum equipment you need to brew along?
So I think that's a question in relation to, you must be one of our subscription guys, and in the magazine that it comes along with, we have said that some of the things we plan to do in months to come are things like share homebrew recipe equivalents of some of our core beers, maybe even recipes that you could brew with our beer. So we have a guy who works on our bar called John, who makes an amazing chocolate cake with Tom Coco. So we're going to put that recipe in at some point in the future. So I think off the back of that, we're being asked, how much do you need to spend to set up homebrewing? So
it depends. What we'll try and do is when we put recipes out there, we'll put a couple of options in. So if you go to the scale that we used to brew out, which was 26 litre equipment, and especially if we go back in box, we'll give you an idea of that. One of the things that I used to really like, I think they're called Brooklyn Brew Kit or something like that. And you could do it on a hob on your at home. You don't make much beer from it, but you get to see the process and you get like a few pints at the end of it. So
I would say if you are starting out homebrewing, spend the minimum amount possible until you decide if it's truly right for you. This isn't right for everyone.
Yeah. This is Lee, who basically went out and bought the most expensive kit he could find. Oh my God!
Shiny steel. No, I had all individual vessels.
Oh, yeah.
I did get a bit carried away with it. Really carried away.
What's the original pilot kit? I always forget the name of that. The Grainfather.
Grainfather.
So we've got a Grainfather that's sat on our top floor, hasn't been used in 3 years. So we really need to get that type of stuff out, clean it, and move it on because. They're brilliant. I absolutely love them. But yeah.
But when you can produce, I don't know,
fair point.
5,000 litres in the same amount of time.
But that doesn't fit my garage.
Yeah.
True.
Well, we've got one that might fit in your garage. There, if you want to. So I got one from Wendy C. What do you do with the waste products from the brewing process?
So it's actually a legal requirement that we have to have an arrangement in place with someone to dispose of our spent brewing grains. So ours go to a local farmer and it gets fed to his pigs and his cows. And the hops, at the point at which we used to use leaf hops, so you get the kind of plant matter back out of the kettle, he used to take them and try to feed them to his cows. But they are intensely bitter, so the cows wouldn't eat them. But he also found pigs, and pigs will eat anything. So, yeah.
He's got one from Andrew Morgan. Why do you recommend removing the beers 30 minutes prior to the show beginning? What difference does that make? So this is specifically the dark beers. So you'll see when we get onto it, and we'll probably tell you a little bit more about it when we get onto it. But dark beers, the flavours really come out at warmer temperatures.
I wouldn't say just dark beers, all beers. Sorry to cut across you that way, but if you think about people who are trying to sell you extra cold versions of beers, that's because cold temperature is an aroma suppressor. 80% of your perception of flavour is through your nose. It's aromatic. So, but the colder something is, the less you're able to perceive the aroma, and the less you're able to perceive the flavour. So when you are served extra cold versions of stuff, what they're trying to do there is make you taste less of it. So for me, that doesn't make it a good thing. That makes it a bad thing. They don't believe in their product. They think for you to accept their product, they have to serve it cold. But either way, whether it be dark beer, whether it be cold beer, to get the most out of the flavour, you don't want it super cold because you're not really going to get all of it. And that is even more critical, as I suppose Wayne was about to go into, with the dark beers because...
Well, no, exactly. The dark beers are more malt focused, typically. So you're tasting more from the malt than the hops. At the warmer temperature, you're getting a lot more of that flavour coming through. It just really suits that style. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the next beer. I just read Lee's question. I was just intrigued about lager. Because in particular, our new site is going to give us a lot more opportunity. So we've got one from Mark Curran at York ACUK. Your lager Freya's Gold seems to be quite different to the rest of your beers in terms of style. What made you brew this, and will you be venturing to the craft lager Pilsner market more in the future?
Right, well, what made us brew it is not as interesting as you might think. We sell a lot of lager, and it makes more sense for us to make it than to pay someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we first started making lager. Have to admit, to this point in time, not being our passion, we do not have the water in this site to be able to make lagers. What we are doing up the road, with the scientific advancement we're going to have there, gives us the water from which you can finally make clean, crisp things like pilsners. So yeah, not been a big part of our portfolio to date, with the exception of that one, but will be going forward.
Yeah, exactly. We our water profile is not great for brewing very much different. Well, anything lager-wise, but we kind of realised we could make a Hellas lager. So we used to brew a beer called Dante's Hellas. It was pretty. For me, I really liked it because it was a malt-forward lager. Unfortunately, the typical lager drinker wants something more clean and crisp. So we were getting a lot of feedback in the bar from the general public that, do you have anything that's a little bit more like, want to name any of your generic lagers? We weren't passionate about lager, and we were thinking we need to do something to make it more accessible, make sure people enjoy it more. So we brought out Freya's, which was a cleaner, crisper version. It isn't, the type of lager we would drink.
But it is hopped with American hops, which is our thing.
And it was also what we could brew in this water profile. A clean, crisp pilsner in nice weather. You can't go wrong, and that's the type of beer we want. If we're going to do a lager, that's the type of thing we want to have permanently available. So the new site, we're going to do that. We answer these briefly, don't we, when we can?
So a couple here from Andrew Morgan, which I think we can answer very quickly. So, any development on shipping the subscription boxes outside the UK? No.
Yeah, unfortunately, outside the United Kingdom, because of duty, beer tax, we can't. We can do it to anywhere in the United Kingdom. Unfortunately, outside of our main shipping zones, the cost of shipping, you guys need to pick up. So yeah, we've got a couple of subscribers a little bit further afield.
And the second question from Andrew Morgan was, not involved in Brewdog's Collab Fest this year? Yeah, question mark.
Yeah, we were the same, question mark. How come? We finished second last year. Any Brewdog want to collab with us?
A little bit late now, because they typically run that event in October, November. So whatever breweries are involved, that's all taken place. Those beers will be released in a month or so. But because we finished second last year, they have asked us, Brewdog that is, to rebrew the beer that finished second last year. Have we got that point across? Yeah. So we rebrewed that beer, and it's going to be released as a kind of pre-event, I think.
So were we the highest finishing brewery in the UK? In the Collab Fest? Oh, sorry, yeah, I think we were last year.
Now we're starting to sound out.
But no, we haven't brewed with our local bar for about 3 or 4 years. The York bar, so you think Brew York, but we haven't brewed them for 3 or 4 years. So we brewed with Leeds a couple of years, which doesn't really make sense. We like the guys in Leeds, but we're not obviously a Leeds brewery. So it'd be nice to brew with your local branch.
At that point, I think we best move on.
Strangely, the one they brew with is nearest Leeds.
We noticed that. Yeah, no, we do notice that.
Moving on.
So from Stephen Scott, just had COVID and I'm still able to smell. Drinking these beers is very different experience to usual. How much do you focus on flavour versus aroma?
Oh, well, I would say it's hard to differentiate the two.
I'm not sure if was he saying he still can't smell or he can smell. Because if you can't smell, then yeah, it makes a massive difference. Even now, just hold your nose and have a mouthful of the beer. It will make a massive difference to what you're tasting. And
okay, I think I've got it. Yeah. So I think it will make
God,
a big difference. Oh, he's doing it.
That's actually lovely.
Well,
Because they get the guava.
this is my point again about your perception of flavour being 80% your nose. I've said this a few times on here. Like, the way to do it, if you like yourself, is to get a jelly baby, hold your nose, chew it. While you're holding your nose, you won't taste it. You then release your nose, you taste it.
and what do you do if you don't like yourself, Tom?
See if you've been paying attention. No.
If Tony was here, no.
If you don't like yourself, you hold your nose, you bite an onion. Whilst you're holding your nose, you don't particularly taste it. Second you let go of your nose, you're like, why did I do that?
I did the.
That's like that. Nice, you have to brew that without the coconut. I would absolutely love it.
So, to answer your question,
I really like it. It's just a complete grower for me.
yeah. So, going back to your question, Stephen, I would say, yeah, obviously, aroma's a massive part. As I've said, it's 80%. But what we try to do at Brew York is, if we say there's going to be a flavour in a particular beer, we don't really do subtle. We go, wham, there it is. So you're perhaps getting a little bit more subtle than you would normally perceive it, but because we do the wham thing, hopefully you're still getting some.
When he says we do the wham thing, he dresses up as George Michael. I don't know the other guy's name.
See, I don't agree with that though, because I think your beer's like the blueberry one, because the name escapes me. It's no doubt very good.
Katy Berry?
Katy Berry.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's like, they're still, like I said earlier, they're still in balance. Yes, it's blueberry, you know it's blueberry, but it's
Tom,
in balance.
it's that time again.
You've got that malt and everything else that's...
Well, I think you can have the flavours in the beer be balanced, but each of those flavours still be strong.
Yeah, exactly.
The idea of balance is to not have one thing dominating over another. So I think it's something like Katy Berry. Yeah, you get the malt, you get the vanilla, you get the blueberries, but you get them all on a big scale. You are in absolutely no doubt what you are drinking is a blueberry beer.
Yeah,
So,
exactly, but
yeah.
it's not just blueberry.
We've already done that one. We're going round again. Looking forward to collabs. Will they be in the subscription box? We've done that. Right. James Caller. Have you considered a yuzu and matcha sour? It's a very popular combo in China. How much can I say on this? Am I allowed to? Okay, let's say we might be looking at doing something along these lines, but because I'm not certain how much I'm allowed to say, we're going to have to move on.
You need to fit it in.
We need to fit in.
You need to fit it in.
Right. Matt Barker, what is brewing over the coming months, you guys? Wait till the end of the show and then you'll find out. Peter Riley, question for Lee with his scientific background. Why do I always get gout after visiting York? Is it because I overindulge in rich food, or could it be the yeast strain in the beer?
Is it all the Juice Forsyth impressions?
I think this is a moderation thing, Peter. I don't think you can put it against any one thing. I think it's overindulgence across all fronts. So, I'm going to leave that to you. My turn.
So for Morag Reefens, have you made a beer with spontaneous fermentation before? If not, would you make one? No and yes. Is that the quick way of answering it? So no, we haven't at the moment, but we will, and that's one of the potential uses of the kit behind us next year. Andrew Morgan, how about a range of tea beers based on different tea leaves? I thought it said tea bags. How about a range of tea beers based on different tea leaves? Yeah, there's some really cool, different beers made with different teas. We're doing the jasmine one, we're quite interesting, but yeah, Earl Grey in particular has a really nice, works really well with beer. Yeah, maybe we'll do one soon. We just need to convince Lee to. He doesn't like coffee, so that's a good way to go for it. Matt Barker, will the Christmas stouts be in your new beer club? Yes, the December beer club will have 3 different Christmas beers in it. The ones we mentioned earlier, and we'll tell you a little bit more about them again later on. From Stubo1, what is going to be your next barrel aged beer? So we mentioned State of Mind, so Burgundy barrel aged Cherry Tom Cocoa is the next beer. The one after that is the collab we did with Turning Point, Mockerman Randy Savage. So this is going to be an 18-month barrel-aged beer. That'll be coming out in November, so that's going to be really cool. It's about 14%. Well, it was going into the barrel, so that'll be pretty interesting. Andrew Morgan, there must be loads of fruits and plants, perhaps more local to particular regions that aren't used to brew beers. Things like cactus, nettle. Wonder if there's any potential they'd have here. Cactus, nettle.
I don't know about either of those two ingredients, but with what we're looking to do with the site here, when I walked away, we were starting to talk about
Mixed
spontaneous and mixed ferm. So I am actually in discussion with a local forager about finding local ingredients that we can specifically put in that type of beer. So I don't think we're going to find any cactuses out on the North York Moors, or whatever the other one was.
So this is from, I think it says Eway, York. How's your mail order and subscription side been doing? We're slightly obsessed with ordering from you. Has this offset the taproom capacity problem and any plans to bring back the beer in a box? So yeah, during full lockdown, the mail order side of things, it went nuts. It was brilliant. So we really appreciate all the support everyone gave us. And yeah, it made a huge difference in terms of the fact that we'd lost out on all our bars being open. Now that bars are open again, we still get some good support from people. Still buy beers off us online. It's great, but it's kind of a little bit strange because bars are open, so bars are buying beer again, but they're really cautious. They're not buying beer quickly, so we're finding our sales direct to bars are relatively slow, and then mail order or online sales have massively dipped as well because people are going to the pub, so they don't need to buy a drink at home. So both side of things have dipped quite a lot. So the last few months, it's been challenging to try and get the balance right. God knows what's going to happen next week with extra measures in place. We're all ready and set to start delivering mail order again really quickly. We've obviously maintained online sales throughout. We keep on top of that process. We probably turn around most beers in less than 24 hours now, which is kind of nice. If you order beer off us, you'll get it really quickly. We're going to try and make sure that if we do go into a lockdown again, we keep that going. So that's that one. Are we going on to the next beer? We've got a wad to get through next, but I think people are probably ready for a beer, are they?
I am.
We're still pretty much on track. Half an hour per beer. We're doing quite well.
More questions or next beer?
Next beer.
Next beer. Right. So now on to this one. Up in smoke.
So be sure to comment if you're enjoying it, and if you want Alison and John to do the next camera, we'll swap roles and we'll film and they can talk.
So next up we have the beer Wayne is pouring here, which is called nicely poured, sir.
Yeah.
Which we call
It's
Up
not
in Smoke. So this is the second iteration of this beer. If you're not aware of the beer hall that we have next door, in there we have an integrated kitchen, and that is occupied by a vendor called
Blue Smoke Meats.
Thank you. The reason I hesitated there is when we first encountered them, they were called Smoking Blues.
And yeah, that's
But
their
then,
street food arm, yeah.
when they came in to do here, they're now called Blue Smoke Meats. So it's a predominantly kind of smokehouse barbecue menu up there. The food is phenomenal. And to go alongside their food, we've worked with them to develop this particular beer here, which of course has to have an element of smoke to fit with what they're doing. So we love smoked malts. It could be said I have a bit of an obsession with them. So sat up on that mezzanine over there, we currently have beech smoked, oak smoked, mesquite smoked, cherrywood smoked and applewood smoked. So every time we're going to rebrew this beer, I'm going to use a different one of those. So the first iteration had mesquite, which you might not know. It's kind of an unusual wood. It's generally used in American barbecue cookery. It's that kind of signature
Competition
American
barbecuing.
Yeah,
they always talk about
if you watch those kind of, in fact, there's a new one on Netflix at the minute, which is Chef's Table
Too
Barbecue.
much talking.
Yeah.
Get on with the beer.
Anyway, I love Chef's Table and stuff like that, and they've just done a barbecue version on Netflix. Check it out. So mesquite is the typical American barbecue flavour. We've now moved on to using cherrywood. The original concept for this beer, the backbone of it is the malt construct that was Viking DNA, which was the very first beer that we ever brewed here back in March 2016. So we've basically taken that malt backbone, and we've swapped out the beech smoked malt that we used at that time. We've added in cherrywood smoked malt, and we've doubled the amount of smoke as well. And then into that we've added some maple character as well to kind of give that really big smoky but kind of sweet,
A little bit of sweetness to it.
barbecue flavour. Also in here we've included Columbus, which we said is one of the hops that we use all the time. And we've also used Centennial, which is a hop that plays very, very nicely in dark beers like this.
Yeah, so smoky beers are, again, we've been talking about a lot about Marmite beers. They're kind of, some people love them, some people hate them. But I like smoked beers, they like smoked beers. But what I think makes this beer work really well is the sweetness that comes from the maple. So yeah, it is smoky, but the sweetness kicks in and it kind of balances it out a little bit more. So it's not too intense. There's a lot of smoke in there, but the maple doesn't make you realise that. It kind of hides it a little bit.
How do you think it compares to the first version?
Oh, it's better.
I think I'm enjoying this one more.
And the fact that we've let it warm up a bit as well makes a massive difference. It's kind of usually we finish these sessions on a big hitting 10% or a 9%, and I don't think you need to. With a beer, this is 5% beer, but it's holding its own against the other beers because.
So I think the next YouTube lineup are probably averaging about 7.5%, and then the one after that we're doing 6 beers. So you're gonna have to wait until then for us to embarrass ourselves, which I'm sure we'll do.
Just wait till the camera stops rolling, and you'll probably start. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting beer. There's lots of different flavours, and what works really well if upstairs, the guys at Blue's Kitchen, they don't just do smoked meats. That's the name of the business, but they do all sorts of vegan and veggie menus as well. In fact, you'd probably hate it, but my favourite dish they're doing at the moment is exactly it's mushroom fries. It's so good. There's so many nice flavours on there. He hates mushrooms. But yeah, they do some really cool food, and this pairs so well with most of it. Just the flavours just work so well together.
So I suppose the only final thing I could say on this beer is when you use smoked malt in the right proportion in a beer like this. So there's like a total of 7 different malts in here. A lot of them are kind of from the roastier end of the scale, and that can be a little bit astringent, shall we say. It's kind of hard to get balance without it kind of being overpowering, but when you use smoked malt, it seems to kind of balance everything out. Gives a certain smoothness to a dark beer that you wouldn't ordinarily find. So that's why I like to use smoked malts in beers like this. And I think against that sweetness of the maple, I've got to say I'm really loving this one.
I've got to admit, I was a little bit nervous about finishing on a 5% smoked beer after all the other flavours, and I'm really pleased.
The flavour's big enough.
Yeah.
Even if the strength isn't, the flavour is big enough.
Yeah, it's definitely exceeded my
I
expectations.
looked at the beers for tonight, and I thought smoked beer, I thought German brown beer, can't stand it, appalling, awful. That is absolutely stunning. And I suspect this goes back to balance, because if you think about dark beers and pastry stouts and everybody comes in loads of crap through, so de-bittered, you know, the chocolatey thing going on, and they just all taste sweet and nasty. Whereas the smoked beers taste like an ashtray, whereas this is in balance.
So for me, and I think for anybody that knows about dark beers without wanting to sound arrogant, it has to be about balance, and it has to be about complexity. When you're making a pale beer, you're going to use 1, 2, 3 different types of malt, and you're going to use your hops. And for most of those malts, you kind of want them to sit in the background and just let the hops do their thing. With something like a dark beer like this, what you're trying to do is to get all these different types of malt to have all these different flavour spikes, to kind of create this broad profile of flavour, this complexity. That's what a dark beer is supposed to be about. That's why you need to take it out of the fridge early. You need to let it warm up. You need to let all of that bold and broad character come through. So yeah.
It's like a great whiskey. It's like a great whiskey. It's all in balance.
It is, but hops and beer work, I would say, in the opposite way to whiskey. For beer, and in particular hops, mostly it's about the blend. Whereas in the whiskey world, the blend is the cheaper, it's the knockoff, it's the imitation. The whiskey world, it's about getting that single flavour spike of one thing, the single malt. In the beer world, completely different. It is about trying to get the unity of all these different things, the symphony of the orchestra, to create the right balance of flavors. And I love both. I have quite the whiskey collection.
This goes back to what you were saying about the Kiwi brown ale. That's another great beer. The balance is just, I mentioned it earlier, the balance is just amazing. That is great one.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate that. So the thing that made me laugh is when one of the things you mentioned there is proper Rauch beer. It just reminds me of drinking hot dog brine. Not like you drink it a lot, but you know that flavour, don't you? Because it's so intense and smoky.
And for anybody who doesn't know what a Rauch beer is,
it's a smoky beer, a German beer.
so,
Pour lager in an ashtray and drink it.
so in this beer, we've used maybe, of all the barley that's in it, 8 to 10%, I think, would be the smoke malt. If you're making a Rauch beer, you get rid of all of the other barley and you use 100% of the smoke malt. And here we go again, Marmite.
Yeah.
Except in this instance, the Marmite is 95% of people hate it, 5% of people like it.
So we've got like a stack of questions to get through. So we probably need to get onto the next subject and then start cracking through some of these questions. So one of the things that we've got we want to talk about is the next YouTube packs. So next month we've got a pretty cool selection. So anyone joining us live tonight has got the advanced benefit of being able to get a sneak preview of this one. So Nuba, our original New England IPA, we brought back this week. So 6.6%. This time we used London Fog yeast.
London Ale 3.
London Ale 3 for the first time, and it's super cool. It tastes really, really, really good as a result of that. So that's on keg upstairs at the moment, but it's not launching on can till next week, and then we're putting it in the next tasting pack because it's a pretty cool beer. After that, we're going to have Life is Peachy. So Life is Peachy is a peach sour IPA.
Indeed.
I tasted it for the first time yesterday, actually. 2 days ago, and really interesting. I'm not a huge fan of peach normally, but yeah, nice sour IPA with peach tones coming through. So that's pretty cool.
And then it's we've referenced it a few times tonight. The pumpkin beer that we brewed with S43. I don't think we told you the name until this point, though. Let's see if anybody's Family Guy fans, because it's going to be called Pumpkin Dark Side. Which, if you do follow Family Guy, they did a tribute to a film that where's the list? They did a tribute to the film that's definitely not referencing. That they called something Dark Side, so hence we call that beer Pumpkin Dark Side, which is a 7.4% pumpkin spiced latte milk stout.
And then there's the.
I got that right twice.
This is the end of the session killer, where we get a can of barrel aged State of Mind first ever launch Burgundy barrel aged cherry Toncoco, 9.5% each.
And Wayne's already said to me, "Are we doing a can aged?" I'm like, "Damn right, we're doing a can aged."
May as well go for it. So that's going to be pretty cool. We also mentioned the fact that Toncoco, the beer that finished, what position did it finish at the UK breweries in last year's Collab Fest?
I think it was second word.
UK breweries.
First,
yeah.
sorry. I do apologise.
So the beer from Collab Fest, that's coming out in a couple of weeks' time.
Did it actually say what the beer is?
It's a vegan-friendly version of
heads?
Toncoco. So 9.5% vegan-friendly version of Toncoco. So basically Imperial Toncoco, but very vegan-friendly.
Except I think I've written that down wrong. I think it's 8.5%.
I think it is. I was going to say. And then if anyone's been watching all of the live tastings, you may realise that we brought a really, really cool beer out that we couldn't tell you the name of the beer because of...
like 2 or 3 tasting sessions ago.
Yeah. It was
released for our 500th Guile. And I think we had to take the label off the can even, didn't we?
Yeah, it was a bit of a pain for that event. But it's back. And it's better. And it's called HYG. And I don't know if you'll know what that stands for. But it's our 600th Guile, and if you see it, the can artwork is a sloth wearing a superhero T-shirt, and the superhero is a Brew York superhero. It's really cool.
I think it walks the line, but it is fucking cool.
And then we've got our new site up in Osborwick. what's going to become our main production site. The place is called Hanley Park, so we've got a beer coming out called Project Hanley to celebrate the launch of that, and it's going to be a 5.5%
It's going to be
APA.
5%. I've done well here, haven't I?
Yeah, so it's going to be. There's lots of cool new beers coming out in the next few weeks.
And then my job at this point is to tell you about the Christmas part, but we've kind of already done that one. At this time I can't get the ingredients on because they're written down in front of me there. So we've got Fairy Tale of Brew York 4.9% milk stout that's going to be flavoured with peanut, pecan, maple, vanilla and cinnamon.
It's almost like you read that, isn't it?
No, I don't remember from last time. We've got Nightmare of Brew York, which is an imperial milk stout coming in at 9.8%, which is going to be coffee and walnut. And then we've got the pastry sour Dreams of Brew York coming in at 6.5%. That's going to be flavoured with cranberry and blueberry. So all of that coming in the months to come. And those Christmas beers will be part of the 6 that we will be tasting in December.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Yeah.
Well, one's 4.9, one's 9.8, one's 6.5, and we're going to do 3 other beers as well.
Well, one of the things we might be doing is on that tasting we might be starting at 6 instead of 7. So obviously we can't stay late anymore because of licence and the rest of it. So on to a few questions. So we've got any questions in the audience before we jump onto the content?
I've got a quick question. So have you thought about...
Sorry, can we just wait for the mic,
Oh, yeah.
if you don't mind?
Liam needs to decapitate the other audience members first.
It's a cheeky one, so we'll wait for it. So, are you thinking about doing a subscription box of styles from around the world called Wayne's World?
Sorry.
We should do just the beers I like. It'll be like a West Coast IPA package, 9 different West Coast IPAs.
West Coast IPAs and black IPAs.
Excellent.
Carry on, dude.
So we've got one from Mark Curran, York AC UK. How does one of your beers become part of your core range? Do you have any plans to change what beers in your core range in the future? It's an interesting one because we actually do have quite a big core beer range, and what we do is we look at what other breweries do and what we think that the market wants in general, and what beers bars will want to buy regularly, and that's what forms our core range and what beers that we think would fit in there. But we're an unusual brewery. We don't fit into the moulds, unfortunately. So it makes it hard for us to have a core range, because what we find is we'll brew a beer like Jarsa, which is our core cask beer that we love and it sells relatively well, and then we'll bring a beer out that we don't think will sell very well, but it's one of our one-offs like Rhubarber Streisand, and you guys buy more of that than any other beer we make. So we're like, well, we're brewing it all the time. It kind of needs to become core. So it's a bit strange in that respect.
I'd like to say we've been hugely strategic about it, but it hasn't been that. It's really been, well, they keep telling us to brew that, they keep buying that, so therefore that has to be the core range. And that's how Rhubarber got in there, that's how Goose Willis got in there, that's how Tom Coco got in there.
Goose was us, basically. Yeah. We wanted to drink it all the time, so we
well, yeah, that's true.
But no, we do try and be a bit more strategic about it and look at what beers work well and what beers people buy and when they come in here all the time. But yeah, we do get a bit carried away sometimes. We probably have the biggest core beer range of any brewery going, so we're going to rationalise it a little.
Andrew Morgan wants to do some advertising for us. He's asking us, when is the November tasting? And Alison has conveniently put the date on for us so we don't forget.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th of November. Thank you. Thanks for answering.
Friday the 13th, nice.
Oh God, yeah.
That one from Stephen Guy. Have you ever made a beer using corn? T-shirt pun.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. I was going to say, Brew York, what? You're not winning Brandon?
No, we haven't. It's an ingredient that certain lager producers, shall we say, millers, might use because it's cheaper than using barley. So no, it's not something we plan to do. So John in York, are you in your new factory? We're in the building. We have broken ground, shall we say. The flooring's almost complete. The cold store is complete. The vessels begin to arrive in 2 weeks.
Yeah, a couple of weeks time
2
now.
weeks,
Yeah.
So yeah, still a lot of work to do there, but yeah, things are moving forward.
All the beers that I've drunk says my girlfriend has a nose meter, no sense of smell, and I struggle trying to get into beers unless it's really fruity. They all taste the same. Is there any beer that you brew that aroma is less important?
I would say that we don't have an answer off the top of our heads, not understand that in that condition. So if you want to drop that same question to info@brewyork.co.uk, I will make it my job to get you an answer.
It's a good one actually, because my mum has the same thing, so she can't actually smell properly. So I'll get her to taste all our beers, and if she pulls a funny face, don't try that one, and then we'll probably every beer.
Next one, Matthew Brooks. Is this a different recipe from the previous version of Up in Smoke? It tastes less smoky in a good way. So it's a different type of smoke malt. We've still used the same quantity. The first one was done using Mesquite smoke malt, and this one's been done using cherrywood smoke malt. I prefer this version. I think Wayne said he prefers this version.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think it's probably just the different type of wood has resulted in a less intense type of smoke. I think you're probably right on that one, and this one makes for a better beer.
So from Chris Roberts, different aromas are affected by low temperatures differently, right? So less volatile hop flavours get suppressed more quickly than cold.
Yeah. I'm not sure what we're looking for there as an answer. So volatility is how quickly flavour or aroma compounds would escape from a beer, and for hops, all of that would be right. We're getting too scientific here. All of that would be at temperatures above which you are drinking the beer. So, Chris, again, inbox is info@brewyork.co.uk. If you want to go over that question again, make it a little clearer what you're asking. I'll see what I can do for you, mate.
So one from Dan S. Why are you not doing Collab Fest with York Brewdog? Question mark.
Here we go again.
I think we've covered that ground. We'll move on to the next one. Matt Sullivan, we had some amazing snacks from you in previous boxes. Will any of the subscription boxes have snacks?
Yeah, I mean, good shout actually. We during full lockdown, we basically decided that we would do all sorts of different things, beers and snacks, and so a lot of our snack providers are independent companies, wanted to make sure that they're still getting business during lockdown as well. So we were buying snacks off those guys and putting them in the packs, and then as soon as all bars reopened, we kind of stopped doing that. And we should definitely do it again, because it's great, especially when you've got certain beers, certain snacks go really well with them. So we'll definitely pick that back up again. One from Stephen Guy. Do pigs feed on hops? Question mark. Taste different to malt? So yeah, pigs eat anything. So what we found with our farmers were that they would eat the hops because they don't give a they don't care. They just eat anything, and the cows will only eat the
Always
spent
reminds me,
grain.
is it Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels with Bricktop?
Yeah, where you basically feeds.
Always reminds me of that when we think about the pigs. It's good. What's your favourite beer you produced since lockdown? Since lockdown? I know mine. The Guava sour that we produced, that was called Che Guava, which we're now calling
Guava. So Viva La Guavalution.
Viva La Guavalution.
So mine's Big Eagle. Absolutely. You saw how quickly we both drank that. I would definitely have another one of them as soon as this is over. Tony. One from Matt Baktel. Would you ever collab with Michela? Would you love to experiment with ingredients just like them? Yes. Myself and Lee, just before lockdown, spent a bit of time in Copenhagen for a beer festival, and we were like fanboys, weren't we? Michela's over there.
It was so frustrating because we had a bar, and then Yeasty Boys were that way, and then there was this.
Lervig were literally.
Lervig was there, and then there was like not hard seltzer or something.
Yeah, they made those like hard seltzer.
They made these hard. So there was this like non-alcoholic spritzer like bar there. So Mikkel, as in Michela, had kind of walked round and he'd gone there and he'd gone there and he got to this like hard seltzer server, and then it was going to be Lervig and it was going to be us, and then he chatted to them and he turned around and walked off.
But on the plus side, so one of the things that Mikkel have done so well in Copenhagen is they've diversified massively. So they don't just have a beer bar, they have a fine dining restaurant, they have a smokehouse, they have a barrel store. So the smokehouse is War Pigs. If anyone's ever goes to Copenhagen, going to our beer hall, it's exactly the same in terms of smell and stuff. It's so cool because when we went to War Pigs, it was like being back at here. So it's quite cool for us. And then we went to we met the guys who do Baghaven, which is their sour project, their mixed fermentation. And the guys who run War Pigs and Baghaven loved our beers, and we loved their beers, and it was really cool. And go on, do the line.
They gave me a bottle of a 750 ml bottle of sour beer that's called Polly, and Polly is my wife who's just entered the room over there. So I brought one of those home.
Yeah, it was they're really, really nice beers, and it's just really nice when you meet breweries that you've got so much respect for, and they really love your beers as well. And that was the other cool thing. So we were sat next to Lervig, and the guys who run Lervig, we're there like, can we drink your free bean stout? And they're like, yeah. We're necking their like Tonka based free bean stout, and they're drinking Goose Willis, and they're like, this is awesome. We're like, well, actually, that was based on Charltonga that you brewed with with Buxton. Yeah. So yeah, thanks. That's pretty cool. So yeah, there's lots of like, mutual respect going on. It's quite nice that after 4 years, people enjoy our beers as much as we enjoy theirs.
Yeah, it was a real high. It was a shame that whilst we were there, that's when all the lockdown measures started to come in.
Yeah.
The day before that beer festival went ahead, they restricted public gatherings in Denmark to 1,000 people. So unfortunately, that beer festival didn't get the footfall it perhaps should have done.
Yeah, and
we all know what happened since then. So.
No, exactly. But on the plus side for us, we got to meet loads of other international breweries who then put us forward to their respective importers, and we picked up quite a few import contracts on the back of it. So our beer's going into Sweden and potentially Denmark in the next few months. So it was quite nice that we got to go and speak to people, and they appreciate our beer. So.
Right. Next up, Owen Quigley. How far ahead do you manage what beers you are planning? Do you ever need to make a last minute change if ingredients aren't available? So I do the ingredient ordering 3 to 4 weeks ahead. So in theory that shouldn't mean we have to make a last minute change, but yes, it occasionally happens. In terms of planning what's going to get brewed, that's 2 to 3 months ahead. But again, there needs to be a little bit of response in that. So, for example, at the minute, cask beer is not selling as well as it has done previously. So those additional rebrews of cask that we had scheduled have had to be bumped for other things. So yeah, it has to be a little bit dynamic. But yeah, we do try and plan quite far ahead. To have a new design created, to order cans, you're looking at 4 to 5 weeks just to get that bit nailed. And let alone like nailing your recipes and so forth.
So one from Jim C85, what are the gifts likely to be in the third months? So the first gift, so anyone who's Drink Outside the Box subscriber, after you've been a subscriber for 3 months, you get a gift. First gift is going to be a glass. So we've got some glasses lined up for the first one.
In fact, is it these ones?
I think it is. I think we're drinking from them now.
I think we're drinking out of them right now. You're going to be getting these.
So yeah, the ones that we've drank out of. So if anyone wants these, send a comment. There's no COVID in it, honestly. And then the month 6, or your 6th month as a subscriber, we haven't decided exactly what it is yet. We've got a couple of different ideas, but yeah, we've got a little bit of time to firm that up. But it'll be something like the one thing we really wanted to do is kind of redundant now, which is the bar blades. The bar blades are pretty cool. You can get your branding on, but no one drinks from bottles anymore. So, like, give you a bar blade to open your can with.
Next one, Lisa Reimers. Can you brew with Marmite? I don't know. I don't intend to find out.
So we've got one from Paul Jewett. Is it not possible to put a barrel-aged beer back through your coconut cannon to add the coconut back in? Yes, it is. We wouldn't put it through the cannon. What we'd probably do is blend it with a fresh beer that's been through the cannon. So,
and that's what we did with the original barrel-aged Empress. We, when it comes out of the barrel, it tends to have evaporated some of the liquid over the time it's been in the barrel, and it's also potentially sucked in some of the spirits from the barrel. So it comes out stronger than it went into the barrel. And to be compliant with UK tax regulation, you need to bring it back to its original strength. So to do that, we brewed a new batch of that beer with fresh coconut, and that's how we got it back to its original strength. And I thought that was one of the best beers we've ever done.
It was cool. It got all the barrel aged flavour, but also the fresh coconut in it, so it worked really well. So we're going to fly through a couple of questions. So we keep getting told to wrap it up. So Richard Broom, can we ask the accountant not to interfere with the subscription box, please?
That's my friend Richard.
Yeah, I know who Richard is. So yeah. Chris Roberts, does brewing cask make it harder to can? Yeah, if we were when we first started, we're a cask focused brewery. We didn't have the equipment to keg or can, so it made it quite difficult. Now we're a keg and can brewery. Keg and cask brewery. It makes it easier to can as long as you've got either someone coming to site with a canning machine or your own canning line. We thankfully have our own canning line, so that makes it a bit easier. Richard Broom, surely promised me that Viking will be making an appearance towards autumn winter. Do you know when? Well, we've just drank kind of Viking, but original Viking will be back in the next month or two in cask, hopefully, if pubs don't.
It'll be back, Rich. Don't worry. It's not on the schedule yet, but we've
another one from Richard Brew. When will the beer that cannot be named be available on the web shop? A couple of weeks' time. Look out for HYG.
Well, no, it was brewed this Wednesday, so I'd maybe give it 3 weeks. 3 weeks, something like that. Andrew Morgan, how do you choose your running order for these events? Usually it's by ABV, but 4 different styles means the palate can be quite overwhelmed. How do you ensure all beers are showcased well?
It's combo of both, isn't it? So it's not always ABV. For in particular, this beer would have killed the other beers if we'd have drank it earlier. So keep it to the end, and then ABV.
Yeah, I think we like to do kind of weaker pale to start out with, and then we'll go to a sour for a palate cleanser because it's like a sorbet. And then we tend to go dark at the end, and our dark beers, if you probably
usually
notice,
stronger,
tend to be quite strong, so they're a nice thing to finish on. And they're also a bit dessert-esque. So
yeah.
Right, Lisa Reimers, please give us more tasty, low ABV goodness. I can't keep drinking Impy Stout all night. Any planned?
Low to no. We're going to do something hopefully in time for December, January. Low to no means low alcohol or no alcohol. But it's also a weird time of year. So yeah, summer people love low strength beers because you can drink them outside and enjoy them. Winter people usually prefer something a bit more wholesome unless you're driving, and then that's where the low to no comes in.
I would say as a final point on that, so now we're going to have the flexibility of the new site. Yeah, we want to increase the diversity of the range. So low to no is something we're looking at. Low carb is something we're looking at. Doing more lager styles is something we're looking at. So we very much pride ourselves in being a broad waterfront brewery. We don't want to be the guy that just does the hoppy beer with a different tweak of hops. No dig at anyone in particular. But yeah, we want to have that diversity. We always want to have accessible beers that appeal rather across the whole range. So for about 10 minutes we've had a sign over there that says wrap it up. So I think it's about time we did. So as per usual, we'd love to get your feedback. We want to know what you think's worked, what's not worked, what would you change, what do you want to see next time. Hope you've all enjoyed it, guys. Anything more to add?
No, we might be in a nice, fun, different location next month. We'll see where we are at the state of play with all our other things going on. So thanks for joining us, and the YouTube pack in particular is going to be good next month. So yeah, come back.
Ballet's Tom Coco will be worth it for that alone. Cheers, guys. See you all next time.
Bye.